Hey, what's up guys? Today we're finally going to be reviewing the Arcam AVR31, the absolute beast of a receiver that comes with up to 1,260 watts of Class G amplification that then switches over to Class AB when too many speakers or power is being used. I absolutely love this thing. The culmination of features on this onset receiver is just downright diabolical. It not only supports direct live, it also is basically able to decode every audio codec in existence. Dolby Atmos, Virtual X XD, IMAX Enhance. For Pete's sake, it has Aura 3D, which is a codec that I didn't even know existed until I got this receiver, which sounds downright insane in video games and pretty cool to utilize in some music when you want a certain type of vibe being played or whatever. But regardless, I just have to say that I absolutely love this thing, and I've loved it since I've got it, and I did extensive research for basically 6 months when I was trying to decide which receiver I was going to get. So in today's video, I kind of really want to talk about my experience over the past couple of years of having this receiver. And I also want to apologize to a lot of you guys that have been waiting basically a year for this video, because every time I was about to do a review, I was like, okay, I'll wait till I get the Sony A95L. Finally got the Sony A95L, and then I was like, okay, I really like it, but with the Emotiva, it sounds good, but I want a PA720, and then what turned from getting a PA720 within a month's time ended up being like 3 or 4 months, and you can see it right here. I finally have it. But like, regardless, all these stuff in context with each other is just downright insane. And this video is not going to just be like a single video. Like, I have to do a part 1, and then in the second video I plan on covering the PA720, and then I'm also this week going to be getting direct live bass management multi-sub, and that's going to be like a whole nother thing that I also cover in the PA720 video. But regardless, I'm really appreciate you guys and your patience and taking your time with me and stuff like that. But today we're finally going to be talking about it. If you guys like what you see, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'm saying that, let's hop right in. So the first thing I want to talk about is why I went with the Arcam AVR31 and how was my like initial first impressions when I got it, like the absolute day that I got it. So first and foremost, the reason I went with the Arcam AVR31 over say something like, at the time, was like the Marantz 40 was the top of the line, and then also the Denon AVR A1H was a lot of reasons. And let me just say this real quick. I did 6 months of research on a receiver, and it wasn't just like, oh, let me just check up on this like every couple of days or whatever. It was to the point where like sometimes like on week spans, I would like do an hour of extensive research. When I was going to Star Wars Celebration in Europe last year, I literally bought like 2 hours of Wi-Fi on the plane because I just wanted to read more and more stuff about the different receivers, because it was like a really hard decision. I knew how good the Sony A95L was going to be, and I wanted to pair it absolutely perfectly with the with an amazing receiver. So what was really the deciding factor, you know, after accounting for like wattage and, you know, Arcam has a Class G and then Class A, and the type of content that I was going to be using is at these music shows where they have all the new fancy speakers and fancy receivers and all the new technology and different stuff like that, is KEF speakers are usually, if not always, paired with Arcam. And that's for a ridiculously large reason. They pair perfectly. The sound signature and the sound quality that the Arcam is able to push the KEF speakers is chef's kiss. It's amazing. It's something you gotta really like hear in person just to like experience it and like know how great it sounds. Now, the next thing I want to cover is, like I said, my early impressions. So when I got this device, firstly, it's $7,000. I knew that. I did 6 months of research and different stuff like that. I read about it. I read every review. And let me just say this. Not a couple of reviews, not 50% of reviews. I read every review. Every single forum where AVR31 was typed, whether it had to do with bug issues or how good it was or how bad it was, I read it all. When I got this thing, and I turned on and played, like I think the first thing that I played was The Last of Us Part 2. The Last of Us Part 2, even if you don't like the story, I personally like it, one of my favorite games ever. You have to admit, Naughty Dog are the best in the industry, basically, when it comes to details and graphical fidelity and also sound design. I think The Last of Us Part 2 was one of the best sounding games ever made. The sound, like, it sounds really good with headphones, but when you play on a home theater device, and it was like one of the first games I played from start to finish when I got my home theater, because it came out, I think, within 3 months of me getting my home theater for the first time. That game sounds nuts. The bullets whizzing, the nature, the leaves, everything, like the groans and screaming of characters as you shoot them or when you get shot or whatever. It's just downright amazing. And it was mind-blowing then. On this device here, oh my God, it raises it to a different level. And I know I've never heard direct as well, but like, it's not only the imaging and the soundscape that it creates, but it's also like the sound quality and the punch of like sound. It's just like perfect. Like before it sounded like, and I know KEF does a really good job of this not being the case, but with the Denon, a certain amount of power was being pushed to the speakers, and like I can still like somewhat tell that sound was like coming from the speakers. With the Arcam AVR31, it literally sounds like everything is just sound particles in the air moving around you. It eliminates like speakers. Like, you don't really hear that it's speakers even when it's running in stereo mode, when it's using the Class G amplification, which is just absolutely nuts. But what completely sold me on this receiver is one of my favorite movies ever is The Batman with Robert Pattinson. Fantastic film. It's a reference to this when it comes to visual and audio quality. My Lord, when I booted up that movie, and one of my favorite reference scenes is the Batmobile, kind of like in the middle of the movie. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being overzealous, or I guess I hope that's the right word to use. I'm not trying to like overhype it or whatever, like set your expectations too high, because honestly, when I even say this, I wouldn't even really believe myself if I was watching this video, but like I'm being downright like straight with y'all. When I tell you it sounds like there is a Batmobile in the room with you, and I'm not talking about just like a very loud car. I'm talking about like it bouncing off the walls and everything, and I'm guessing that has to do with the direct as well. Oh, sweet mother God. That moment alone sold me on the receiver. Like, I was like, okay, no matter what issue or whatever, and I came up with some issues, but like, no matter what, like, it is, that sells me enough. Like, I knew in that moment that whatever this receiver pushed out, like, it was just going to impress me. And it has, with music and all the different stuff. This thing just sounds downright insane. And like later in the video, I'm going to talk a little bit more about like music and anime and more so on video games and different stuff like that. But like my early impressions were just like, this is like one of the greatest things I've ever experienced. So, you know, with me loving this thing so much, I'm not going to lie, it's not perfect. And there hasn't been anything that's just like, okay, I'm going to get rid of this thing, especially because I bought this with Best Buy Total Tech. With Best Buy Total Tech, I had up to 2 months to return it. And then also if I ever have any like, I was about to say game breaking issues, but if I ever had any like systematical issues or whatever, it's warranty covered and different stuff like that, and I don't have to worry about that. But there hasn't been anything that, let me just say like, let me just get rid of this. Now, with saying that, I've had some grievances and issues with it that I've seen other people have online, and then I've had some issues that I haven't seen online, and that's also another point that I'm going to talk about, because it's very hard to find, if little, any information on this receiver, not only because it's such a niche device and who it's targeting, enthusiasts. It's also very, very expensive, and most of the people that are buying this device aren't people that are going to be going online to forums and different stuff like that and like complaining. They're just going to call their dealer or whatever and be like, hey, bada, and then they'll be like, yeah, I'll fix it or whatever. I'll solve that for you. Now, with that said, some of the issues that I've come upon is one that's on a Crutchfield review, and I knew this going into it, but I didn't think I was specifically going to suffer from it because I had the newer model of the TV at the time. So if you go on the Crutchfield, I believe that's the website where the review is on the AVR31, you can actually find a review where somebody talks about they had the LG C9, and sometimes when they would watch some Blu-ray discs or some specific content that they would do, the screen would be black. Now, from what I gathered, the person in the review gave the receiver 4 stars, and they understood that it was a handshake issue with something to do with eARC between LG and Arcam with the C9. I suffered some of the same issue with the CX. when I had that TV at the time, but it wasn't specifically in every single type of content. Most movies worked fine without a hitch, but I remember 2 different days. One day I wanted to watch The Wizard of Oz. Love that movie. Looks downright insane with the 4K transfer, with the color. It's just crazy. And then also Back to the Future. And I remember those 2 days because I was really wanted to watch those movies at the time. And I got the issue where there was a black screen, and no matter what I did, I think one time I got Back to the Future to work on that day, but the sound wasn't working. And I understand it was a handshake issue in eArc and different stuff like that, but this receiver hasn't got an update since 2019. And that's another point that I want to talk about a little bit further for a reason. But also, another issue that I've come upon is when I first got the receiver, until when I plugged it up to the TV for the first time, until I completely power cycled and turned it off, I wasn't getting any sound. After that, I power cycled, it was perfectly fine. Another issue that I was actually getting for months that was annoying, but it wasn't like, as I said, making me want to return it, is I was getting audio desyncs for a long time, not in every single type of program or content that I was consuming. It did happen a freak ton with Nintendo Switch, and I play a lot of online Smash with my friends, and the audio would literally go out, not only for a second, but for like literally 5 or 10 seconds at a time, and it would make this like popping sound as it came back in. I don't know what the hell it was exactly, but I tried resetting my receiver, I updated it, issue wasn't fixed. I reset my TV, that didn't fix it. What ended up having to happen is I had to actually factory reset my TV. I don't know if some type of handshake or some type of exchange of credentials between the TV and receiver got messed up somehow, and in some content it would mess up. And it didn't just happen on my Nintendo Switch. I actually got the issue sometimes with my Panasonic UB820, also my Apple TV and my Shield TV. Funnily enough, I never ever got the issue with my PS5 or my PC, which is super confusing because a PC, or especially the one I built, is a culmination of a large variety of different parts and stuff put together, and the issue never happening there, especially with me using Dolby Atmos on there at 4K 120 hertz, just not Dolby Atmos at 4K 120 hertz, but playing games at 4K 120 hertz on this display. It didn't really make sense. Other issues that I've had that aren't really like bugs per se is, this is the one thing that I really kind of dislike about the receiver. So for you guys that have Arcams, you know that when you're using the remote, you can cycle through the menu and different stuff like that. The receiver has no on-screen menu. It basically puts text of what it's hovering over at the bottom, which is not descriptive enough to know what you're doing. And if you really want to like tinker with the receiver or whatever, and you want to do it like outside of your phone, you have to actually come up to the receiver, click the buttons, and like squat down, or I guess if you have it on a rack, it's a little different because you can just like press and different stuff like that. And let me just say, the online browser to tinker and stuff with it isn't bad, but my issue is that its competitors like Denon, and I believe so Marantz as well, have on-screen displays that allow you to tinker and figure out the situation and stuff there. And I don't have a problem with the 2 options that they give you. I just wish they wouldn't force the user to do things specifically the way that they want you to do. Like, I have an SVS sub. I use the phone app really well. Arcam, I believe, has an app as well. I've never gotten it to work, which is just an absolute nuisance. But SVS has an app. They also have a remote that comes with it, or I can just click on the buttons. It gives me options, like 3 different options of how I can change the settings and different stuff like that. The Arcam gives you 2 options, which I think is pretty sucky, and like, especially when its competitors have like on-screen displays, which aren't even perfect. Like, I'll just say that they're not perfect, but just give us options. I understand the type of like audience that you're targeting and different stuff like that, but like, that's honestly like, I praise this receiver so much, and you know, this is issue that is like, I guess, minor in the all when you're thinking about the whole thing as a whole. But regardless, I do wish that it did just that. So the last thing I want to talk about is how is this device with, you know, different content, everything from movies, music, video games, TV, whether it be animation or live action or even anime. And I put anime in its own subcategory because most anime is mixed in stereo rather than multi-channel, and that allows it to be able to use a Class G amplification on the receiver. And first thing, the two things I want to talk about is Class G content. So when it comes to the Class G content, as I said before, anime is going to be basically always done with utilizing the Class G. Otherwise, you know, unless it's a movie, in those cases, sometimes they're mixed in 5.1, and I even saw the new Gurren Lagann release was Dolby Atmos, which is insane. I'm really excited to watch that. But it sounds good in absolutely everything. Music is probably the thing that I'll admit it sounds like the absolute best on, and Arcam is, you know, usually like advertised as like a music-centric device. They have a bunch of CD players and media players and all this. I think they even have turntables. I might be wrong on that, but I think they do. But it sounds really freaking good with music, whether it's stereo, anything that I listen to, you know, whether it be like audiophile level. I do listen to a lot of classical or even jazz, and I love movie scores. And even in the even Dolby Atmos category, you know, some are gimmicky, they don't sound that great, but like when a Dolby Atmos mix is done well, oh my gosh, does it slap. Two of my favorite Dolby Atmos mix songs are both done by Hans Zimmer, actually. And first one is Can You Hear the Music from the Oppenheimer soundtrack. Dude, at the end where it's like boom, 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 whoom, whoom, like it sounds so freaking good, and it literally sounds like a ring of like a planet like spinning around my brain, and it gets like really faster, faster, faster. Coolest thing ever, and like it takes over the entire soundscape, and it literally sounds like the sound is spinning around you. So freaking cool. And the other is Arrival from the Dune 2 soundtrack, you know, Lisa Al-Gieb's main theme basically, and the bass and the sound and how rich it sounds is just absolutely nuts. So like on a music category, and I don't really like give 10 out of 10s for a lot of different stuff I review, 10 out of 10, like it just absolutely knocks it out of the park. For anime, I do love anime, and like it's going to sound a lot better when you have like a raw Blu-ray disc or a raw file of the mix. But most of the time I'm going to be watching like stream on anime and different stuff like that, and it does use the Class G amplification in that category. I would give that maybe like a 9.0 or 9.1 in that category. Next thing I want to talk about is movies, and this is really like this one probably has the most factors at play, because not every movie mix is going to be treated the same. There is some movie mixes that are just like, why? And then there's some others like, dude, this is the best thing I've ever heard. Like the Batman sounds so freaking good. Top Gun Maverick sounds so freaking good. And even those ones, they don't have as much Dolby Atmos effects as some others. Like one thing that just sounds downright ridiculous, even with like Dolby Atmos and all that stuff, is Ready Player One, the racing scene. That is like one of the best showcases of like home theater like ever, I guess I would say. And like the racing sequence, it not only has bass, it has like sound going over your head. There's literally one moment where a car gets hit, or I forgot exactly what happens, but it literally sounds like coins, not sounds like, it's coins on the screen literally fly out right in front of like the screen, and you literally hear them as they like come right in front of you, land on the ground, and it literally sounds like coins on the ground. Dynamics imaging in combination with this, with direct, and it's just able to create, is just downright insane. Now I don't know if this has to do specifically with the receiver itself, but for movies I probably give it like a 9.8, a 9.9. Now, one of the greatest experiences that I have with this, and this is the thing that I highly doubt there's a lot of crossover in different stuff with this Arcam receiver and the people that are using it, is video games. And let me just say this, I'm not saying this is like, if you want the ultimate video game setup. I mean, if you do want the ultimate video game setup, you probably would have to get something like this. But like, as a gamer, that somebody that's like maybe 60-70% of the content I'm consuming on this thing is going to be like, well, maybe 50%, because I've actually watched a lot more TV and movies and music and stuff that I have in the past couple of years, because it all just sounds so freaking good on this. I have played Spider-Man 2 from start to finish, Alan Wake 1 from start to finish, Control from start to finish, did I already say the last 30 hours of Elden Ring? I don't know. And I'm playing Shadow of the Erdtree on my computer because I wanted to stream to you guys. But one of the greatest experiences, or not even one of the greatest experiences, probably the greatest experience that I've had on this Arcam receiver, and probably one of the greatest experiences that I have in my life. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but this receiver and this TV has given me just crazy experience. Playing Alan Wake freaking 2 on this receiver with this TV and these speakers was one of the greatest experiences of my life. That game is downright terrifying. It is just a freaking masterpiece and masterclass in absolutely everything, from storytelling, the graphical fidelity, and what we're talking about today, audio. When I tell you I was just downright terrified, I would be scared if I was playing this on headphones or any other setup, but when it sounds like the audio is legitimately happening in your room with like shadows coming out of the darkness, especially with the black levels and OLED coming out of the darkness, and you literally hear it and all the different stuff around you, oh my goodness, dog. That honestly, like, I'm not even being like hyperbolic or whatever. Like, it's just, it's amazing. Like, it's really freaking amazing. And like, just experiencing that as solely on this, that like, when I get a new receiver, I don't think Arcam's gonna be making like a higher end thing, and I don't plan on like upgrading for a while. That's why I went with something this big and great. This is amazing. Like, I'm a locked in fan for life. Like, after that experience, that was just godly. If you haven't played Alan Wake 2, and well, I mean, if you can't handle horror, then I wouldn't recommend you for it because it's a scary game. But like, if you can and you play video games, like, a lot of people aren't using this for gaming, as I said, because this is more like a music and movie lover type of device. But like, as somebody who's a gamer and enjoys that type of content, this is just downright amazing. Like, there's nothing like it. And like, the Denon, I would have enjoyed Alan Wake 2 with the Denon X3608, but this device has just elevated it to another level. And that kind of transitions into the next and last point that I want to make. Who the hell is this device even for? And, you know, it's advertised more so for, you know, movie lovers and music lovers, but honestly, I wouldn't really let that scare it away from you. If anything, what's gonna scare you away is the price. It almost scared me away. Before I got it, I was just like, I'm not spending $7,000 on a device that, you know, it's gonna be nice that has HDMI 2.1 and different stuff like that, but there was like no way in hell that it lives up to not only the price point, but also the way people are talking about it. And honestly, I have to say it does. And if you're looking at a receiver, especially if you have KEF, if you have KEF, I don't think you should go with anything else, because Denon sounded really good, but like the sound signature with combination with the KEF speakers is just downright great. But if you have the money and if you're looking at a receiver, obviously this is something that is ridiculously price pointed. There's also the Arcam. I think there's an AVR31. There's the AV40, which you can put with like your own amplification, different stuff like that. I'd highly recommend it. And even with the bugs and the issues that I've had, and there's quite a bit, I still love it. Inside of, I still freaking love. And like, I'm not really somebody that usually gives scores and different stuff like that, and I feel like some people might have issue with this, but like, the experience that it's been able to give me and just like how great it is, especially paired with what we'll cover in the next review, the PA720, is, this thing is diabolically good, man. I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10. It's not perfect, especially with my problems with the UI and the little small bug issues that I come upon in some of the other ones that I've seen online. To give a device that's $7,000 and to give it a 9.5, like, it's just saying, like, I love it, and I do, and I think it's great, and if you're looking at it, I'd highly recommend it. Now, saying that, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If there's anything that you'd like to see me cover in the part 2 or possibly even part 3, I can also probably do a Q&A. Please feel free to ask in the comments below. Also, I stream. If there's like a quick question that you want to ask me, not only about the receiver, but any other piece of technology that I have, I would love to see you guys tune in and love to hear from you and answer all your questions. Now, saying that, thank you again. I'm sorry this video took so long to come out, but I really hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure to hit the like, subscribe button. Saying that, I hope you guys have a great day.